critical care doctor from New York City. 9 days ago, I opened an intensive care unit to care for the sickest COVID-positive patients in this city. In these 9 days, I've seen things I have never seen before. In treating these patients, I have witnessed medical phenomenon that just don't make sense in the context of treating a disease that is supposed to be a viral pneumonia. 9 days ago, I presumed I was opening an intensive care unit to treat patients with a virus causing a pneumonia that was ravaging lungs across the world, starting out as something mild, a cough, a sore throat, and progressively increasing in severity until ultimately ending in something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS. This is the paradigm that every hospital in the country is working under. This is the disease, ARDS, that every hospital is preparing to treat. And this is the disease, ARDS, for which in the next 2 to 6 weeks, 100,000 Americans might be put on a ventilator. And yet, everything I've seen in the last 9 days, all the things that just don't make sense, the patients I'm seeing in front of me, the lungs I'm trying to improve, have led me to believe that COVID-19 is not this disease, and that we are operating under a medical paradigm that is untrue. In short, I believe we are treating the wrong disease, and I fear that this misguided treatment will lead to a tremendous amount of harm to a great number of people in a very short time. As New York City appears to be about 10 days ahead of the country, I feel compelled to get this information out. COVID-19 lung disease, as far as I can see, is not a pneumonia and should not be treated as one. Rather, it appears as some kind of viral-induced disease, most resembling high-altitude sickness. It is as if tens of thousands of my fellow New Yorkers are on a plane at 30,000 feet and the cabin pressure is slowly being let out. These patients are slowly being starved of oxygen. I have seen patients dependent on oxygen take off their oxygen and quickly progress through a state of anxiety and emotional distress and eventually get blue in the face. And while they look like patients absolutely on the brink of death, they do not look like patients dying of pneumonia. I have never been a mountain climber, and I do not know the conditions at base camp below the highest peaks in the world, but I suspect that the patients I'm seeing in front of me look most like as if a person was dropped off on the top of Mount Everest without time to acclimate. I don't know the final answer of this disease, but I'm quite sure that a ventilator is not it. That is not to say that we don't need ventilators. We absolutely need them. They are the only way at this time that we're able to give a little more oxygen to patients who need it. But when we treat people with ARDS, we typically use ventilators to treat what's called respiratory failure. That is, we use the ventilator to do the work that the patient's muscles can no longer do because they're too tired to do it. These patients' muscles work fine. I fear that if we're using a false paradigm to treat a new disease, that the method that we program the ventilator, one based on a notion of respiratory failure as opposed to oxygen failure, that this method, and there are a great many number of methods we can use with the ventilator, but this method being widely adopted at this very moment in every hospital in the country, which aims to increase pressure on the lungs in order to open them up, is actually doing more harm than good. And that the pressure we are providing to lungs, we may be providing to lungs that cannot stand it, that cannot take it, and that the ARDS that we are seeing, that the whole world is seeing, may be nothing more than lung injury caused by the ventilator.
I earned that title with my blood, sweat, and tears. I earned that title. Though not too long ago, I quit the industry. After finding out that I was installing a Chinese-made weapons and surveillance platform, I took a $60,000 a year pay cut and entered another field. And I've been avoiding making this video. There's just never telling how far a video would go. After a couple times going viral, I'm just kind of over it. But there's some things going on in the world now that I can't sit on the information and not tell you. Even though I may struggle with how to tell you. Look, alright, so there's a lot of myth and disinformation about 5G. A lot of people are scared, and rightly so. This isn't what we're used to. This is not anything like what we've got online. Now we've got it online, and that's the issue. It's not just theoretical anymore. It's not just being installed in preparation of. It is online, and I'm being proven right, and I hate it. Because there are some communities out there that are going to feel the effects of what I installed there. Where do I even start? Right, so 5G is a new way of emitting radio frequency. Right? Unlike 2G, like 2G and 3G, it is directional. Right? 4G emits itself in a bubble, and your exposure to the radio frequency, which is non-ionizing radiation, which means that it doesn't have the strength like plutonium or uranium to knock your electrons out of the path and start mutation. Though radio frequency has been proven by the National Institute of Health's toxicology program to be carcinogenic. And that's just a 2G, 3G. They found conclusively that it caused tumors and cancer. All right? They tested it on rats, but they proved it. $30 million 2-year study, they proved it. Cell phone radiation is carcinogenic. Right? And your user manual that you got with your phone, it tells you to keep the thing away from your body. Do not carry it on your body next to your skin. It tells you to use your phone holding it 6 inches away from your head. There's a reason. Now 5G is a whole new ballgame. And it emits radio frequency in a millimeter wave. Right? It's like a non-ionizing radiation laser beam, essentially. And they've done tests on this. They found out that there were adverse health effects from exposure to millimeter waves in the 70s. I've seen some of the documents. I've seen the studies. They found out a long time ago, which is why the military used it. They used it in a thing called the active denial system. It's a crowd control. They spray the crowd with millimeter wave radio frequency, and it causes the water molecules in your sweat glands to feel like they're boiling, and the crowd disperses immediately.
Not a very good looking tree. Ball of bark's falling off. All on the left hand side. Look on the left hand side of that tree. Look on the right hand side. That's alright. Yeah. Right, well look at the right hand side of the tree. Look at the front. Look at the bushes. Look at the green bushes. Yeah. Very nice. Look at the left hand side. Dead. Do you know why? Because that's right next to it. Look at this. Have you seen anything like that in your life? It's got a light right there. The transmitter on the top. Now, how is that? Explain that. The right-hand side of the tree that's not next to the transmitter, the growing away from it, is okay. I mean, look at this. Look how shocking. Look at it. All the bark falling off. All dead. Totally dead.
3G and 4G are causing cancer. What the hell is 5G going to do?
Right.
And like I said, people are not going to even, put two and two together and say, oh, well, I have, non-ionized radiation symptom poisoning. Like, no one's going to know. No one, it's just like, oh, the billboards are just faster internet. And it's like, my internet's good how it is. There, So I don't know. We're up against a lot right now.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not sure if you caught that video of the doctor, and I believe he's in New York, dark-haired guy. He talked for like 10 minutes, and everybody was sharing it for a while. And he was talking about how he's been in hospitals for years treating viruses, but that what he was treating in New York, people were not improving on respirators. They were actually getting worse. Their temperatures weren't going down. I mean, they couldn't do anything. Their organs were just failing, which was a couple other doctors that replied to that video said radiation poisoning,
There you go.
Towers. Now, I'm not saying it's for sure,
right.
But can we put two and two
speculation
together
is there? Yeah.
Right, especially with 5G towers starting in Wuhan where all the shit hit the fan.
Exactly.
The one thing I would like to say is, so did you see the film or the ER in Italy that they posted like a month ago? And then they used that same video in New York. Did you see that?
Don't they understand people are paying attention to this?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I just posted on my story. They posted a picture of some guy in Michigan died of the coronavirus. And then in another state, it was the same exact guy.
I saw that too.
It's just like people and people on the internet, man, they don't miss shit these days. So it's like, you're not going to just get away with this and think that no one's going to catch it anymore.
100%.
So it's like, as crazy and detrimental sometimes social media can be, because we're just in our phones all day, like at the same time, our message gets out there far and wide than if we didn't have these platforms.
Yeah.
They can't take everybody down.
No, well, 100%. That's why, that's what I say. And at this point, I don't care, especially with what's happening right now. Another thing with the news was, well, not about the news, but I know people personally that have got diagnosed for COVID without taking a test, All they had was a cough. They got their lungs
Just
checked with a
symptoms.
stethoscope, and they sent them home. This was last week. And the
Wow.
same hospital did not have a bunch of people in it. There's people I know that have said hospitals. There's people that have been exposing hospitals. You know, some hospitals I'm sure are busy, but a lot of them aren't. A lot of those little checkpoints aren't. They're not testing nobody. Everybody's inside just obeying and watching the news. That's it.
It's very, very scary because I go back to the Truman Show. It's like there's a behind the scenes thing. It's like we're setting up all these tents and there's lines of people. Every place that I've passed with a tent, and because I'm in Philly, the stadiums down there, they set up in the parking lots where the stadiums are. Not a soul. There's cops blocking that, to get in there. Not one person.
Yeah.
This is a major city.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is actually going on right now?
Yeah. Yeah. And
so if the news isn't going to report it, we are.
Death certificates as well. I know Dr. Jess out here in San Diego, Dr. G recently was sharing some that doctors are being ordered to write COVID on the death certificate as well. That's not being made up. I mean, doctors are actually posting about this. People are speaking up that somebody who had pneumonia died of pneumonia, and they tested them for COVID, but the test didn't come back for 14 days, so they just wrote down COVID on there. I mean, that was something that I just saw this morning. So, and people are like, people are dying. Like, don't you, like, how do you feel about this? It's like, no, do you see all the stuff going on? I mean, this is a lot that we just covered in the last half hour about what's happening, like to open your eyes to think a little bit outside the box of why are we still locked up? Like, what is going on here?
Right.